Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Well, 2 more federal inmates were executed this week at the U.S. Penitentiary in Terre Haute. As Adam Pinsker reports, the executions occurred the same week. A report by NPR detailed how the drugs used for lethal injection could cause cruel and unusual punishment.
Anti-death penalty protesters rang this bell Thursday night at the approximate time 40-year-old Christopher Villalba received a lethal dose of pentobarbital in the execution chamber at the United States Penitentiary in Terre Haute, where Villalba has been incarcerated for 20 years. A couple weeks before he was executed, Villalba taped a statement asking the government to spare his life.
I'm not making this plea as an innocent man, but I am a changed and redeemed man. I committed a great wrong when I was a lost kid and took 2 precious lives from this world.
Villalba became the first black man executed since 2003 and the 7th man put to death on federal death row since the Trump administration resumed executions in July. A 6th man, William Lacroix, was executed Tuesday night. Before he was executed, Villalba tried to shine a light on what he called the immortality of state-sanctioned executions.
If no one speaks out about this on a national level, the condemned will continue to be invisible while marching to their deaths.
But just this week, the issue did gather national attention after NPR released a report showing 84% of inmates executed by lethal injection in the United States developed pulmonary edema, meaning they had a frothy fluid in their lungs while they were being executed. Autopsies showed that condemned men may have literally drowned in their own body fluids.
There's absolutely no way that it is post-mortem.
Dr. David Lubarsky is CEO of the University of California Davis Health System and a professor of anesthesiology. He says the drug used by the federal government to execute prisoners on death row, pentobarbital, is a sedative and is not meant to kill someone, only to put them to sleep.
All of the lethal injection protocols tend to use massive overdoses where we really don't know whether or not the drug is acting as intended when you give it in a mechanism that's never been studied.
The Justice Department approved the use of pentobarbital when federal executions resumed, and it was used for all 7 inmates executed this summer in the federal death chamber in Terre Haute. Signs of pain and torture aren't always evident to the naked eye during the procedure. Dr. Lubarsky says since most medical doctors refuse to take part in state or federal executions, the task of performing the lethal injections are left up to people with no experience.
And the problem is they do run into a catch-22. They've realized, well, you have to really employ medical monitoring and medical professionals in order to do this, but it's not the job of a physician to kill someone. It is the job of a physician to save someone.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
The U.S. government carried out 2 more death sentences this week at the federal penitentiary in Terre Haute. That brought the total to 7 since the Trump administration resumed carrying out death sentences this summer. WTIU's George Hale covered both executions this week, including the one last night. George, can you just start by describing what happened?
Yeah. So the U.S. Supreme Court denied a motion to delay the execution of Christopher Villalba ahead of the 6 p.m. time he was scheduled to die. His attorneys say Villalba's race likely influenced the Texas jury to sentence him to death. He was part of a group that kidnapped and murdered a couple visiting Texas in 1999, and the details are particularly gruesome, but Villalba's supporters insist that he has changed and taken responsibility.
Did he speak before the execution?
He did. His final remarks focused entirely on his victims. He prayed that God would take away the anger and pain they felt for so many years. But after the execution, a family member did release a statement saying she was still grateful that the sentence was carried out and it should have been done sooner.
These last 2 executions come new evidence emerging about lethal injection drugs. Has that had any impact on the way these executions were carried out?
Not in these cases, no. Both inmates who were put to death this week had argued in the past that lethal injection drugs are hardly a pain-free method of execution. Indeed, that's what NPR discovered when it investigated hundreds of autopsies of people who were executed in recent decades. A large majority of them showed signs of pulmonary edema, which is that extremely painful fluid buildup in the lungs. Since some of these drugs also paralyze the inmate, it's actually hard to know whether or not they're suffering. But both experts we spoke to say that doesn't mean they aren't able to feel pain, and likely many of them do experience a sensation of drowning or suffocating.
Are there any other executions scheduled, or is this it?
Officially, Villalba's last night was the final scheduled execution at the federal level, but lawyers we spoke to say there's nothing preventing the Trump administration from putting more people on the calendar. We'll just have to keep an eye out.
Okay, George, thank you very much for your coverage. Appreciate it.
Thank you.